Today, we're going to create a simple dashboard with Dash, Plotly, and Python. So we have X and Y variables, and here we can visualize them via an interactive scatter plot, a hex beam plot, or a line plot. Let's get started. So, first part is to install the packages we need. We're gonna install Plotly via pip install Plotly. We're gonna install Dash as well. We're gonna install NumPy. We're gonna use NumPy in order to generate X and Y. And we're gonna also import this package. It's called Dash Bootstrap Components. We're gonna use this package for styling. Now let's create the app. So from Dash, we import the class Dash, and we import Dash Bootstrap Components as DBC. This is what we're gonna use for styling. Now we create our app, which is a Dash object, and let's use the style sheet as dbc dot themes darkly. This is the dark theme we wanna have here. Then we run the app. Let's say we want here, for example, the app is on the port 8000. Let's run it on the port, let's say, for example, 800 in a debug mode. There you go. What we're gonna do now is to generate X and Y. So let's import NumPy as MP. We use mp.cleanspace to create a linear space between 100 with 1000 values within, and y equal, let's say, the sine of x plus some random noise. Rand of 1000 values. Let's get some bigger noise here. Multiply this by 2. So that's done. Now let's create the layout of the app. So app.layout equal dbc dot, let's create a container, which is a div class that contains its own styling. And we see this one. So we have these radio buttons and the plots. So let's create 3 rows. One row for the title, one row for the radio buttons, and one row for the plots. So we create a list dbc dot row, and we do this 3 times like this. Now we have 3 rows. So the first row gonna contain the heading, right, which is interactive plot display. So let's import as well HTML from Dash like this, and we create the first one HTML.header h1, and the title of the header is interactive plot display. There you go. For the second row, we're gonna create or add there some radio items, which are these. So let's do that. We need to import DCC from Dash to do that as well. So in the row, we'll have DCC dot radio items, and let's give it an ID. Let's say the ID is plot type, because we're gonna use it to select the type of the plot later on. The options are, well, we have 3 options, right? Like this. So we have each option has its own label like this, which is the first one is a scatter, as we can see here. the value is scatter. This means that this label is the one that you're gonna see here. But when you select this, the value that you're gonna retrieve later on is the second one. So for example, let's add that like that. And if we, there you go, we have the first one. Now we need to copy and paste 3 times and align them together. So the second one is a hex bin. The third one is a line. The value is line here, and here the value is hex bin. Pretty cool, right? But let's align them together. That's very easy. We go here and we add inline equal to. Oh, there you go. Now let's add the final row, and here we will go dcc.graph because this is gonna contain a graph. Let's give it an ID because we're gonna use it later on. ID equal plot. Now we have our graph. Of course, now it's empty. What we're gonna do right now is to create a callback that's gonna enable us to go from one plot to another as we change those radio buttons. So we create a callback like this, app.callback, and it requires an output and an input. The output requires a component ID and a component property. For example, the output will be displayed on the ID, which is this one, ID plot, right here in the final row, and the type is figure. The input will be displayed in the, let's say the input will be taken from the plot type, the ID here, and the value is scatter, or hex bin or line, it depends. Of course, we need to import input and output from dash like this. And let's create our final graph or our final function. We define a function that is called update plot that takes a selected plot and updates it. So each time we go fig equal go.figure, this is an initialization. Of course, we need to import go, which is graph object from plotly. Import plotly.graph objects as go. And if the selected plot equals to scatter, this means that the user has chosen scatter over here. We create a scatter plot this way. So figure.add trace go.scatter. In the x value, in the x-axis we'll have the x values, on the y-axis we'll have the y-axis, the y values, and the mode is markers, the name is scatter, and we can return this figure later on. So if we choose scatter, here we go. But we want something that is like this, so we can update the layout of the figure. Okay? Dot update layout, and we choose different layout. Let's update the layout like this. Basically, we only change the template to be plotly that. And there we go. Now, of course, we need to do the same for the hex bin and for the line plot. So if the selected plot equals to hex bin, we add hex bin. Go dot histogram 3D 2D, and like always, x equal x, y equal y, and we need, let's say if we select, let's visualize that everything is good. Let's change the number of bins on x to 20. Now we have more bins on the x-axis. You can do the same thing for y if you want. Beams y equals 20. There you go. Finally, if the selected plot equals to line, we basically add a trace that is a line plot. So fig dot add trace, go dot scatter, but the type or the marker is a line. As always, x equals to x and y equals to y. The mode equal line. Mode is equal to lines like this. One thing that has been bothering me is upon initialization, nothing here is selected. So let's add the value by default to be scatter. There you go.